Hello and welcome to the second in our series of CRC support videos. My name is Delvin Lane and I head up Energy 360 from British Gas Business. Energy 360 works with both public and private sector organisations to really help them understand and reduce both their energy costs and carbon emissions. I'm joined by my colleague Dr. Angela Needle today, who leads our consultancy services programme and in particular our new CRC manager service. Hi Angela.
Hello.
Angela, just remind us, what is this carbon reduction commitment?
Well, the carbon reduction commitment is a cap and trade scheme that's been brought in by the government, and what that means is they're going to force organisations to trade carbon. So organisations are going to be responsible for the amount of carbon that they emit, and the government are going to put a cap on the amount of emissions that people can sort of purchase, and that means it'll force people to reduce their carbon emissions.
So how does an organisation know if it's in or not? How does it qualify?
Well, there's some quite clear qualification criteria for the carbon reduction commitment. The first thing an organisation needs to do is to see if it had any half-hourly meters in 2008 calendar year. The second thing is that if it had half-hourly meters and the total energy consumption from those meters was 6,000 megawatt hours in that year or more, then they're in the CRC. If they're less than 6,000 or they haven't got any half-hourly meters, they're not in the scheme, but they may have to make something called an information disclosure.
And who would they make that disclosure to?
The scheme is administered by the Environment Agency or the equivalent in Scotland and Northern Ireland, and all information is registered on an online system called the Government Gateway.
Right. So an organisation's now determined that it's in the scheme. How does the scheme work? What's the series of steps in that scheme?
Well, the CRC is an annual scheme. So each year, scheme year, starts in April and ends in March. And the first thing an organisation needs to do in April is to buy allowances. So when it buys these allowances, it will need to know how many it's going to buy. So it's going to have to forecast forward what it thinks its emissions are going to be in that year. And when we talk about carbon emissions, we're talking about all their electricity, all their gas, all their fuels that they use on site, any diesel, LPG or coal. And all that data is then converted into carbon dioxide, so they can work out how many allowances that they need to buy. And one allowance equals 1 tonne of carbon dioxide, and 1 tonne is worth £12. So once they've bought their allowances in April, they will then have to track their allowances, their emissions throughout the year, because at the end of the year in March, they'll want to make sure they've bought enough allowances to cover all their emissions. And if they haven't, they've got opportunity then to buy any more allowances. And at the end of the year, organisations have got between March and July to pull together their annual report. And then in July they have to submit this report and surrender their allowances. And then in October, the year after the first year, they will be put in a league table based on their performance. And money will then be recycled back to them based on their performance in this league table. So it's quite a long period, and there's quite a lot of things to do for organisations in that year.
So what's the very first thing that an organisation can be doing now? What should they be doing?
Well, we're working with a lot of organisations right now who are right in the midst of working out what the carbon reduction commitment means to them. And the first thing that they need to do is work out whether they qualify. The second thing that they've got to do is register, and they've got to register by the end of September. And the registration process is going to take some time, so the sooner they register, the better. So in order to register, organisations have got a number of bits of information that they're going to have to collect. The first thing is their company structure. They need to be absolutely clear what their structure was in the qualification year, 2008, and what their current structure is. So it could have changed. They could have bought another subsidiary, or they could have sold one, or they could have got rid of some sites or got some new ones. And they will also need to, once they've understood their structure, can you imagine, like local authorities, really complicated structures. They've got schools they're responsible for, like hospitals. Hospitals have got, health clinics as well as the main hospital sites. Supermarkets might have got 1,000 sites across the country. It's really important that organisations understand their structure. The second thing they'll need to do is to work out their half-hourly data, so they can get this data from their energy supplier. And they'll need to know how much energy they used in 2008. The last thing they'll need to do is to make sure they understand who the internal contacts in their organisation are going to be. The legislation is set up such that the financial director or the person in control of finances in that organisation is responsible at the highest level for making sure that they manage the scheme internally.
And do they have to physically sign off that return?
Yes, so they'll be given sort of access to an online register, and they have to, you know, they're checked in terms of their credibility or credentials, and a number of other contacts in the organisation who will be sort of buying and selling allowances and inputting data will be checked as well.
And if a company fails to meet the registration criteria or they've missed the deadline, what happens then?
Well, there are a number of penalties for not doing things. There's a number of penalties for not registering on time. There's penalties for registering inaccurately, and then there's penalties throughout the year if you don't buy enough allowances and you don't surrender the data in time. There's civil penalties as well as criminal ones. So organisations that have purposefully, you know, misused or abused the system may well find themselves in a bit of trouble. Those who've made a sort of minor mistake and, you know, errors, the scheme's administered by the Environment Agency, and all organisations could find themselves being audited, which is why organisations must keep really good evidence as to why they've come to the decisions that they have in terms of the legislation.
So there seems an awful lot for companies to be doing. How can Energy 360 help?
We've got a team of experts who know the CRC inside and out within British Gas Business and the Energy 360 team. So what we're doing is working with companies and organisations to make sure that they've got all the data, they've got it evidenced correctly, and they can track it over time. And so we've developed this service, and it's called the Carbon Reduction Commitment Manager, so CRC Manager service. The first service that we offer as part of the CRC Manager is a CRC impact report. And so what we'll do for organisations is we'll get right in the organisation, we'll collect all their energy invoices from whoever their suppliers are, we'll get in with the engineering and facilities manager and find out where all their sites are and if they've got any subsidiary companies and if they've sold any sites or bought any, and we'll work out the amount of allowances that they'll need to buy, we'll work out their potential scores in each of the league table metrics. And so an organisation at the end of this impact report will have a really good view of the finances of the CRC and the impacts on them, but also a list of recommendations and things that they'll need to do in order to comply going forward. And we'll also present that information in a half-day seminar to them, to anybody who they need in their organisation to hear this information. In doing this report, we've often unveiled quite a lot of issues that an organisation was blissfully unaware of. I'll give you an example. An organisation that thought they would participate on their own, but are actually part of a much bigger structure where they've got a parent company and a subsidiary company who are also going to be in it. That means it's the parent company's responsibility, and so, you know, it was one of those things that they wouldn't have found out in time otherwise.
Right, okay.
I think it's important. The second thing that we offer is a registration service. So organisations can ask for our support in gathering all the information that they need for registration. We'll provide it back to them in an evidence pack, and we will actually sit down and physically run through the registration process with them. This is important. Registration, you can get it wrong, you know, you can put the units in incorrectly, and it is relatively complicated. The third area we offer is an annual compliance service. So after you've registered, we will help you track your emissions throughout the year. We'll collect all that data into an evidence pack. We'll work out all the sites, we'll gather all the invoices, we'll collect data through letters of authority with your energy suppliers if indeed it's not us, and we will ensure that you've got your annual reports and your footprint reports submitted on time. And we'll take the burden away of doing all the admin, and that means that you can focus on saving energy.
And does a customer have to take all three elements of the service?
No, they don't. Many organisations, you know, just want the first sort of impact report, and, you know, will then perhaps go through the others as necessary. The annual compliance service that we offer is a 3-year service. Right. So we ask organisations to sign up for 3 years. However, we can be flexible if necessary, but organisations tend to be bundling it all together where they can because it's just easier.
So an organisation signed up for this service, the CRC Manager service. What are the typical costs for an average organisation?
So the impact report is a one-off piece of work, and that's £5,000. Registration, which organisations need to sign up to before September, is £1,500. And for the annual compliance service, for a 3-year service, for an average organisation, it's £13,500 per year.
And the benefits of doing it through Energy 360 and incurring those costs as opposed to doing in-house, is there a benefit to the customer?
I mean, the benefit to our customers is that, you know, we're in the CRC ourselves, so we've got the expertise, we've already registered ourselves, you know, there's a reputational issue for us here as well, you know, we're a big company, so we've got experts on tap, and the organisation won't need to develop their own CRC expertise because the legislation can be quite complicated. That's the first benefit. The second thing is we've set up the service such that it will be cheaper than managing it yourselves internally. Our studies show that it's about £25,000 per year for an organisation to just do the admin. So we've set our service up such that organisations would save money just by doing it that way around.
So a customer signed up for your CRC manager service and you're now forecasting, monitoring and tracking all their emissions as well as helping them report it. Are there any additional services that Energy 360 can offer to really help that customer reduce their carbon emissions?
Well, the important thing to consider is that Energy 360 isn't just about consultancy work. We want to help organisations implement energy saving schemes and technologies. So in offering services to customers, we can install smart meters, sub-metering, we can do audits of sites, we install energy efficient heating, lighting, air conditioning, we look at building management controls, we'll look at the usage of your building and the efficiency of your equipment. We'll even look at renewable technologies, including solar, ground source heat pumps, biomass boilers and wind and the like. So there isn't really an energy offering that we can't provide, and the important thing is that organisations look at what they can do. We can help them come up with a plan and a strategy to reduce their carbon footprint.
Excellent, thank you so much. We've seen that the CRC is a really complex piece of legislation that can be both costly and time consuming for your organisation. The CRC Manager Service from Energy 360 can both reduce the risk of non-compliance for your organisation, reduce the resource required for it and the cost associated with doing that, and can actually be more cost effective than managing it in-house. Energy 360 is a complete range of energy services and energy efficiency programmes, not just aimed at consultancy, but actually physically reducing energy costs and emissions on your sites. For more information on this and on that September deadline for the CRC registration, please contact us at energy360.co.uk. Thank you.